Hi, I'm Danny Black, and welcome to the @SportsBalt podcast. On this podcast, I will be talking sports cards, collectibles, memorabilia. I'll be interviewing hobby guests. I will be talking about my own thoughts. I'll cover regular sports that relate to the hobby. That's the fun part. More importantly, I want you along for the ride. So click like and follow for more content, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Sports Ball, the Baltimore Sports Collectibles podcast. I am joined for the first time in 7 months, Mike Moynihan, baseball collector. How you
Feels
doing?
like feels like just a week, man. Not 7 months.
It feels like 12 hours, 24 hours.
We did just do this 24 hours ago on Hobby Hotline, so
Well, that and the overnight shift on the phone, and it's been a lot.
for sure. But this will be a different episode probably than 7 months ago.
I saved all the good stuff for tonight. I
Good.
felt like I got to be honest. I mailed it in last night.
Good. Well, I'm
Yeah.
saying even than 7 months ago, this will be a very different interview probably.
No, because now I know you.
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't know you. I know. I was respectful. I was deferential. I didn't need to do any of that.
Nope. I'm
No.
just a dude, just like you're just a dude.
Well, you've been a very cool dude to me since we met, so it's good to have you back.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And I saw your fantastic coverage on the Hall of Fame voting, and I learned that even good friends can have very different perspectives. So, why not talk about that?
Sure.
I hear you're a big Hall guy, Mike.
I am. And
Defend that
I
controversial.
hear you're a small hall guy.
I am. I think it's for the smallest of the small, but that I respect others' opinions. So what say you?
Well, can it be fair to say so can you be in the middle? I guess where I am is I think there's kind of that inner circle, upper echelon kind of Hall of Famers reserved for only the greats of the greats. And then I think as a museum, the Baseball Hall of Fame's job is to tell the story of the game and recognize the players in each era that stood out, that made a difference, that were the best in their era. That doesn't mean best of all time necessarily. And so that's where I'm more of a big Hall guy. It's kind of like mainly because I love collecting them. And so if I was a small Hall guy, I wouldn't have that much more stuff to collect on a year-to-year basis.
So did you just become a big Hall guy for the checklist?
It does seem very short-sighted, doesn't it? No, but I do
But
think that if you really reserved it for the select few, I mean, it's already the most difficult Hall of Fame to get into. Less than 1% of the people that play in the major leagues make it ultimately to the Hall of Fame. It's still pretty exclusive compared to football, basketball, etc. So, I'll still stand by my big Hall. If it was a bigger Hall, we'd have guys like Mattingly and Dale Murphy in the Hall of Fame already.
maybe I missed it. Is there anybody you would take out of the Hall?
For sure. I think they've.
Hey, let me follow that up. Anybody specific, Mike?
Yeah. Well, Baines, I would take out immediately.
And as a Marylander, I sadly agree with you.
Yeah. Compiler never. Again, I watched his whole career, so
Yep.
I did never look at him and say, "Yeah, he's a future Hall of Famer." Good player, absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And you and I are only a couple years apart. So, I mean, you probably saw a little bit more of his Chicago years, and I watched him living in Baltimore. And I was the same thing. He was always a good veteran, but I didn't see Hall of Famer.
But there's players that I've watched a lot of their career, like take Dave Parker, for example, guy not in the Hall of Fame, someone who, after reviewing where he stood in the history of the game, his statistics, I'm now a big Dave Parker guy. I think he should absolutely be in. And I caught that he was a great veteran. That was kind of the era. It was already, I started really following baseball in the 82, 83, 84-ish time frame. And so by then he had already been playing almost a decade. So I didn't see the like the 79 Pirates. I was alive, but I don't that was not a baseball memory for me.
That World Series does not exist. I'm not sure what you're talking about. The Orioles were ahead 3-1.
Right. So there are guys that I have come to respect what they did and now go, yes, I think they should be in the Hall of Fame. There are guys like Baines, but even older guys than that. There's plenty during the, Frankie Frisch Veterans Committee era that were just total good old boy, getting them in. Rick Farrell does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. There's several catchers in that, Jim Bottomley. These are names that are, ancient in baseball history, but they are guys that when you look them up, you're like, really? That guy's in? Bill Mazeroski does not, in my opinion, deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
And he had a long campaign for decades to get in.
Yeah. The Pirates GM or owner at the time, who was a great owner, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. He campaigned hard for Mazeroski, finally got him in, probably cost him his own induction, but because he just pissed everybody off, apparently. So the reality is there's guys that I debate, and there's guys that are going to say Harold Bain, absolutely a Hall of Famer. Bill Mazeroski, absolutely. So it's something that's actually, I think, good to debate. I think it's okay to disagree on certain players and their mark on the history of the game. No doubters are the no doubters, right?
Oh, sure.
It's the fringe that we argue about. Nobody goes, "Oh, Babe Ruth shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame," or Mantle or DiMaggio. I just named all Yankees. That's depressing
for both of us. Yeah,
right. But Brooks Robinson, Jim Palmer,
Frank Robinson, Cal Ripken, all of them. Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, no doubters, right?
Fergie Jenkins. Yeah, no, I think part of the Hall has become a talking point. I don't know if it was always like that, but I feel like at this point, between the release of the writers' ballots, the build-up, the Twitter coverage, that vote has become the build-up has become almost as big as the final result. Would you say that's changed over the years? And we talk about the guys who don't get in as much as the guys who do?
Only because of the steroid era. I think that is a relatively new thing. When you had the steroid guys start getting on the ballot. So it's been, 10 plus years of that. Like, that's when it changed for me. It became, are they going to get in or not? Right. Let me ask you this. Do you think the writers have done a good job over the years and decades of electing the right guys?
I think different writers in different eras have behaved differently. Okay. I think before the ballots went public was very different than after the ballots were public. And I think that's important that there's transparency, because you made the comment of guys getting in on the Veterans Committee and the Old Boys Network. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So I would not say those writers did their job. And then you hear of other people submitting blank ballots. And so I can in good conscience say they've done their homework and made a responsible decision. So no, not all of them, not most of the time. But I think since the transparency, it's getting better.
Yeah, I would say they've done a pretty good job electing worthy candidates over the years. Do I think the unwritten rule of, well, we're going to hold off enough where guys don't get in on their first ballot,
right,
back in the day, that's a load of malarkey. Like, that's just dumb. Well, if DiMaggio didn't get in on his first, or Williams, then I'm not going to elect Frank Thomas. Pick your guy, right? That is a no-doubter guy. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there was this carryover of, well, they're not as good as this guy, and he didn't get in. The one douchebag who didn't vote for Jeter. Like, give me a break. Like,
yeah,
come on.
Well, the fact that Mariano Rivera was the first one ever to get 100%. So I just want to know, which part of Babe Ruth's game needed work, or, where was Ernie Banks deficient? I just that to me is a weakness in the writers over time. Exactly.
Yeah. But it was a ego trip that they were on as a collective, right? It's not
Right.
you got, well, we control this, and they'll say you could go back 100 years, and well, in the 30s when they started doing this, they got the first class right. I'll tell you that. Ruth, Cobb, Mathewson, Wagner. Um, who's
Well,
the fifth? Hold on.
it was the double class that finally went in, which was
Right in 39.
so. Did that is that part of the reason because the Hall of Fame didn't open until roughly 40, 50 years into baseball's history, that you had such a backlog of Mount Rushmore type players that
100%.
you can't live up to that anymore.
100%.
And that lasted for 10, 20 years.
At least a decade for sure, right?
Yeah.
You look at the early classes and you're like, good grief.
Right. Right.
No one would argue with that. Then the Veterans Committee comes in. Hey, we've overlooked some eras, right? Pre 1900. But Cap Anson made it early. You know what I mean? It's not, they didn't completely ignore it. King Kelly, guys
Sure.
like that got in. But yeah, it was so overloaded with amazing classes. You're just going, I can't be better than that,
Well, I mean,
and
that's part of it. I mean, if you're Scott Rowland, and I'm not picking on Scott Rowland, but you're on a ballot compared to these guys. I mean, it almost seems like an unfair fight. It's, when Kramer took karate with the 6-year-olds in Seinfeld.
great
Uh,
episode, by the way.
they're all great episodes, by the way. So, is that part of it that, we're just, we have this museum with these legends and it's just hard to respect people in front of you the way you look at those guys?
I think it's an unfair standard if we set it to that level, because quite frankly, how many players can truly live up to that standard? If we set it there, it's an impossible bar to jump over. So, well, not impossible, unlikely, right? You
Right.
got to be like Pujols would jump over that bar. Pujols is a guy that is absolutely upper echelon.
You and I agree 100% on him.
If Pujols doesn't get 100%, I'm probably gonna drive to the writer's house and egg his house or key his car or something. I'll be like, "Come on, dude."
I think the egg is appropriate.
Eggs probably less jail time with egging someone's house than keying their car.
Okay, I want a reflex reaction from you, and it's probably not a reflex because I know you've thought about most of these guys. I'm going to give you a couple names, yay or nay.
Okay.
Some of them in, some of them not. Burt Blyleven,
Yes.
Jim Rice,
Yes.
Kurt Flood,
Yes.
player or contributor?
Player. He had a great career.
Yeah, Thurman Munson,
Oh, that's such a. I'm a no on Munson.
Jack Morris,
No. Which is weird because I said yes to Blyleven.
and Harold Baines was on my list, but you already answered no on him.
Yeah.
So that's 50%. I will say that you are more of a medium haul guy.
But I'm not angry that those other guys are in. Like, I'm not pounding my fist saying this is ridiculous. The Hall of Fame is a joke. I get why Jack Morris is in, and that's the great thing. That doesn't mean I have to have voted for, or if I was a voter, you can make a compelling case for Jack Morris. I just may not agree with it.
Are you a small peak or are you like a long career?
I'll look at either. If you're a long career, it can't just be Omar Vizquel type numbers, right? It can't be they were just better than average for 23 years or whatever. That doesn't do it for me. But I do think defense matters. So Vizquel certainly is a Hall of Fame defensive player, right? That's half the game is you're playing on defense, right?
Well, getting back to Dave Parker, yes.
Well, yeah, he had an absolute cannon for an arm in right field, right? Go watch I watched that. One of the things that convinced me about Parker was watching a highlight reel of him playing the outfield,
The Cobra.
and all the different throws that he would make, and I'm just like, holy moly,
Yeah.
how many guys can do that? You know,
So you were pro Fred McGriff,
absolutely pro Fred McGriff.
and you don't think he was a compiler?
No, because I think he was, if not the best player on his team, he was certainly in the second or third best player on his team. I mean, look at the Braves rotation in the 90s. Tom Glavine wasn't the best pitcher on his team for almost a decade. Does that mean Glavine's not a Hall of Famer? So,
No, and it's a very good point, but I don't think McGriff was in a lineup that was equal to the starting rotation.
okay, fair enough. Um, I mean, he played on some pretty good teams. He played with some pretty good players, you know.
If there's a Hall of Very Good, I probably put him with Harold Baines.
Okay, he's better than Harold Baines.
It's, to me, same ballpark, different seats.
Okay.
More than I look at them. We talk about these other names, and maybe that's not fair, but Carl Yastrzemski, maybe he's not Willie Mays, but to me, he's 10 times better than McGriff. Am I way
Okay.
off?
No, but I would put Yastrzemski in that inner circle for
Okay.
what he did in his career. Uh, did McGriff win a World Series? He did, 93. No, he was with the Padres then.
Toronto. I thought he won the one in Toronto.
Did he?
We're going to check. This is the power of.
Luckily, Baseball Reference is but a click away. Who were we talking about before McGriff or with McGriff? Who'd you just say?
Harold Baines, compilers.
No, other compilers.
95, McGriff won a World Series.
Okay. Oh, the Braves. The one. That's right. Which was, by the way, the only title that great dynasty team won was when McGriff was batting 3-hole in their lineup. Coincidence?
Some of us might say it had to do more with their bullpen and their closer that had struggles for many years.
Who was their closer back then? Mark Wohlers or somebody like that?
It rotated every year. You had John Rocker, you had Mark Wohlers, you had it was a revolving door. That was part of the problem.
Hell, Smoltz was their closer for a few years.
Yeah. I mean, they never had they never gave Bobby Cox the bullpen that he needed. I worked for them. What was it, 96, 97, and it was just Andrew Jones. To me, I actually thought was more of a Hall of Famer.
Really?
He was unbelievable to watch in person. He's one of those guys I would stop to watch play.
So my similar guy to Jones is Michael Young.
Okay. So, Mike, that's a professional transition right there. And for those of you who are listening or watching, okay, I'm going to hold this up to prove real quick that I did not fake this. So I was going to ask you a question. And I was going to say, not counting Nolan Ryan and Fergie Jenkins, just because they were with the Rangers for a smaller period of time and their talent was so disproportional. I want to take them out of the equation. Face of the Rangers franchise, I'm going to give you multiple choice.
Okay.
A, Michael Young.
Okay.
B, Juan Gonzalez. C, Ruben Sierra. D, Pudge Rodriguez. E, Adrian Beltre.
Oh, it's got to be Michael Young. He holds most of the career records for the Rangers. He played with us for so long. If you look at pull him up on Baseball Reference if you're just curious. He had 5
on this list, yeah.
5 or 6 200 hit seasons.
Yep.
All-Star game MVP. The sad thing about Michael Young is when I go back and watch Game 6, you can watch like a consolidated version of the World Series games for the last 20 years or so. And I watched Game 6 where we were playing the Cardinals, so this is 2011. We had been in 2010. The Giants were just better than us. 2011, Game 6. We should have won that. It was actually Michael Young that lost us that. Not Nelson. Everybody blames Nelson Cruz for T-Rex and the fly ball in right field, but the reality is Michael Young made several errors that allowed innings to continue and rallies to continue that allowed the Cardinals to catch up. And so I actually blame Michael Young for us not winning the World Series but I have utmost respect for Michael Young in his career. He was a great Ranger. He moved wherever he needed to play. Uh, he was a great Texas Ranger. He is the face of the franchise. Although I would say, if you asked an outside person, a non-Rangers fan, they're
Yeah.
going to say Pudge Rodriguez or Nolan Ryan.
Okay. Well, I thought you were going to go Adrian Beltre.
Beltre played, so many years. He's kind of like Nolan Ryan, honestly. I mean, Beltre played here 5 seasons.
I thought it was more than that, but you're probably right.
So did Nolan. Um, so it makes it, no doubt, kind of very similar to Nolan. Adrian Beltre came here, got his 3,000th hit. He did a lot of career milestones in a Rangers uniform, similar to what Nolan Ryan did. 5,000 strikeouts, 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adrian played 2011 through 2018.
So what's that? 9? That's 8 seasons, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, Rangers legend.
He is one of my favorite Rangers of all time.
And top 15 MVP every year with the Rangers.
That's actually pretty impressive.
That's ridiculous. So
Adrian Beltre, Hall of Famer?
Okay, so for most of his career, I would have said no. I think he finished as a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
I think the quality of his play stayed higher than I expected farther into his career.
It's rare for that to happen, by the way.
Yes, and I think if he would have had maybe a quicker fall off, he'd be one of these short peak guys. You and I talked about. I actually think if you go short peak, Albert Bell or Don Mattingly are extremely deserving, but you probably have to be more Sandy Koufax, Gale Sayers for that short of a peak.
Yeah, I mean, barring, without the enhancement of PEDs, right? You don't see a player into their late 30s, early 40s perform at the level that Beltre. He was just as good his last couple of seasons as he was early on, and I think part of that was the team he was on. They were pretty good.
He
Yeah,
was
Beltre.
he was a smart player, though. I don't
Yeah,
think people realize his baseball IQ was very high.
for sure. And he learned when to push himself and when to tap the brakes a little, and just he didn't go, just balls to the wall the whole time, which it actually endeared him to. I mean, the fan base here loves Adrian Beltre. He is beloved here in Texas, and rightfully so. He did a lot of great things here.
So, which statues are outside of the stadium? Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan, a guy with the last name of Vandergriff. He was the mayor of Arlington that campaigned to bring the Rangers here from Washington in
Okay.
1972.
Yep.
And that's it.
So, I'm gonna share a little news with you.
Okay.
If you go to the Nolan Ryan statue,
Yeah.
and I got to check on the other one because I did not know there was a second statue.
Okay.
Go to the Nolan Ryan statue, and you look on the base, you will find the stamp of my in-laws' foundry in Baltimore who did the bronze work and did that
Oh,
statue.
very cool.
Very cool.
You want me to take a selfie with it next time I'm there and send it to you?
They hide it somewhere on the bottom, so you got to find. It's like the hidden Mickey at Disney World. You got to find it. But yeah, no, they did a bunch of stadiums, and I knew that Nolan Ryan I thought was one of them. So I did my homework to double check, and then that's their work. So
Nice.
yeah, no, it's a very cool statue. So did I miss anybody on the Rangers list?
No, I think that's a good list.
You're my first Rangers friend.
Is Ripken the face of the Orioles?
Him and Brooks,
Yeah.
but probably him at this point, just because of the difference in the media and the time.
Not a bad face of the franchise, by the way.
I mean,
From a career standpoint, maybe not as a.
literally his career mirrored my life. I was lucky to be at every major event, so you're not going to get an argument from me.
So I don't know if you've heard me talk about this before, but I was a big Baseball Digest guy back in the 80s.
Yes.
And I used to look forward to my Baseball Digest coming and my Beckett Monthly every month, and I would read them literally cover to cover. My first Baseball Digest I ever got was 1980 or January 1984. Rick Dempsey on the cover as the World Series MVP from 1983.
Rick is quite a character.
So I just thought the Orioles connect. I thought you'd kind of dig that my first.
I love it, but it made me think of This Week in Baseball.
Oh man!
Did you not do your whole schedule around that?
Every week I made sure, because these kids today, if you're listening, there was no DVR. You had a TV guide.
I'm talking about this like everybody understands, right?
Right. We had TV guides that would tell us when shows were going to be on certain channels, and there were about 5 channels, right?
Right.
And so, baseball, This Week in Baseball was always around an 11:30 time frame show for us, and it was must-watch TV for me for 30 minutes.
I had to turn it on by the Ozzie Smith backflip.
Yes.
That was kind of the marker.
Do we have any Twib notes today? Are we going to do any Twib
notes? I was going to do Twib notes, but then I decided I'm going to sound old enough, and I did it anyway. So, no, I mean, seriously, you're my first Rangers fan friend. So I have like all these Rangers questions. Are you ever going to win a World Series?
Well, there was a World Series won in our ballpark, except it was by the Los Angeles Dodgers, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Rangers' existence? They started in '72. Do you know who the Rangers' first manager was?
Was it Ted Williams?
It was Ted Williams.
Yes, because he came up with the Senators.
Yes, that's correct. The next manager for the Rangers was Whitey Herzog, another
Forgot about that.
And then, but they are. So I was born in '73. They came in '72. So literally, how old are the Rangers? I just add one to my age, and so they just celebrated 50 years of existence. No World Series titles. At least we're not the Seattle Mariners. That's all I can say. But yeah, they need to do a lot of work, although they're trying this year.
Well, I was about to say, are you a fan of the offseason move so far?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Andrew Haney signing is going to be potentially sneaky good. He's obviously you can't get a big name pitcher without being concerned about injuries. Even the Dodgers are concerned about Kershaw. Verlander's a year and a half removed from Tommy John. I mean, let's be honest. There's not a pitcher out there that isn't one ill-thrown curveball away from tearing their UCL. And
which is why pitchers don't carry a lot of value in cards.
Unless their story's already told, right? Unless they're retired. Although, I think right now is a great era for pitching. I think we potentially have 5 or 6 guys pitching in the major leagues right now that will ultimately make the Hall of Fame. Some of which have already cemented their Hall of Fame resume. Verlander's in; he could retire tomorrow. Kershaw is in; he could retire tomorrow. Scherzer is in; he could retire tomorrow. I think DeGrom needs to do some work, but he's got 2 Cy Youngs, and
Dale Murphy had 2 MVPs.
That's all I'm saying. He needs to do a little more work. He's not there yet, but he's could be on that track.
Well, he's got 5 years. Is that the contract? 5 years?
It is, and he's 34, so he'll be 40-ish. When the contract's over. I doubt he finishes the contract in Texas, honestly, because I don't think we'll be competitive enough to justify keeping him. We'll end up moving him 2 or 3 years down the road to a contending team for prospects that end up, sacking groceries at Walmart. So
I think I'm getting Psyche into the Rangers fan.
Right.
I mean, because I not to Michael Young, you called the face of the franchise and you blamed him for losing the World Series.
Yeah.
So is the face of the franchise the guy who blew the World Series? I mean, that's hysterical.
Well, don't even get me started on the Cowboys. We could really have a long discussion about how much we're we're a really good team this year, and everybody around here is like, oh, just wait. They won't, do diddly do in the playoffs, and it'll end up like every other year since 1995, where we do not go to the Super Bowl.
Am I correct in my history? Did this gentleman, Raymond Berry, spend some time in Dallas?
He did not.
He did not. I thought he had a year or two in there. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
Well,
Mike, I made a mistake once.
If we can only have the ability to look anything up we ever wanted to know,
right, as we both do it,
that would be great. Here we go to Pro Football Reference. By the way, if you guys don't use Baseball Reference, Pro Football Reference, you're missing out because they are great.
You know what? Wow, I was actually wrong. All right, I'm going to timestamp this real quick.
You're going to edit this out? You making?
No. I'm going to timestamp it with me being wrong. It only happens once or twice a year. I like to keep.
Okay, I got you. That's good. Yeah.
I'll edit out everything that doesn't go right with my predictions. Well, I got news for you. Raymond Berry was a freaking heck of a player.
Yeah, he was.
I showed him off in my cards today. Do you have anything fun sitting around?
I have some DeGrom stuff I haven't shown yet on my channel.
Yeah, actually, here, this is Autograph Hall of Famer.
I love that. I love that.
I know. I didn't even realize it when I grabbed it.
So I was looking at my list of autographs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have an Andrew Haney. I have no idea how I got this. I've had it forever, probably since 2014 when this card came out. This is 2014 Topps Chrome rookie autograph. I mean,
he was a first round. He was a first round pick.
Okay, by the Marlins back in the day.
I believe so.
I've got a little DeGrom rookie action, which this was more of a Hall of Fame prospecting purchase a few years ago or a year ago or so. And then I buy autographs of every Cy Young and MVP winner. So
that's cool.
That's another side PC. I hope he grows the hair back out. That's kind of what I'm digging here in Texas.
I don't love that you said that as I went close in on the camera there.
Yeah. I can't do it. That's why I can be. I
also wanted to thank you for this. I listened to your episode, and I immediately went on, and it happened to be the week this was up for sale.
Are those not super cool?
They're super cool, and this is Daniel Jacob Hareen is the artist. Yeah, I mean the problem is I just can't afford every week.
I know.
I would just keep buying every one.
He prices them intentionally that way. Speaking of faces, I'll grab the one I just got. Is the Nolan Ryan Express.
Oh, you got they had Eddie Murray last week and I missed it and I'm kicking myself.
And you could get the Eddie Murray autographed.
Yeah, that's why I saw your autograph and I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Was there an inscription option?
There was not on Nolan Ryan, but there was on Eddie Murray.
There was on Murray. Do you typically like inscriptions? Because I know you're a big autograph guy.
I do. I do. I don't ever feel like it's worth the typical, upcharge cost to do that. But if I could have I love Hall of Fame inscriptions, especially from Hall of Fame players. So
vintage softball, Jenny Finch auto.
Yep, that was that's my secret crush right there, Jenny Finch.
There's a reason she's been in my collection for.
I have a Jenny Finch auto too. In fact, I have several.
I mean, this is a rookie. I mean, this is a.
There you go.
Been with me for far too long. Bro.
In fact, the only reason I watch the celebrity softball game every year at the All-Star festivities is to see Jenny Finch pitch.
Well, you got watch those letters. Yeah, she's unbelievable, and she's brilliant.
Yeah,
at the sport. So that's that was my auto show off.
I like it.
All right, what else you got on your mind? We've already gone 35 minutes just saying hello.
Right. I don't know. This is your show. I work for you tonight. So.
Well, I want you to tell everybody, and I'm going to put it at the bottom of the screen. You are all over the place. Will you give a breakdown of your shows and the differences for those of us that cannot catch everyone?
Well, hopefully one of these will resonate with you out there, and it might interest you and pique your interest enough to go listen. But my original YouTube channel is still going. It's called Baseball Collector. I think I started putting out content 9 years ago ish, and that's where I just kind of show my personal collection, where I'm showing things that I just kind of dig and talk about them and that kind of thing. It's kind of just my first love. Then I got involved with Ty Wilson, and we started doing Bench Clear Media with the idea to create a format, almost a network of content creators doing different styles, different sports. And that really has just morphed into, over the last 2.5 years, just me and Ty doing stuff. And that's where my Golden Age of Cardboard podcast resides, which is another, it's all vintage podcast. So I'd always wanted to do a podcast, and I had so many people telling me, oh, for years, like, you need to do a podcast. I'm like, I have no idea how to do a podcast. It's actually quite simple. I was just such a just dolt that I couldn't figure it out or didn't want to learn or whatever. And I'm like, I don't need to do that. And Ty really encouraged me and helped me just launch that a little over 2 years ago now. And that's been wonderful. So that's on podcast and on Bench Clear Media. And then our newest venture is Chasing Cardboard, which is now going on 7 months that we've been releasing episodes for Chasing Cardboard. Think American Pickers meets sports cards, and that's what we do. We travel the country looking at interesting collections that we sometimes buy, sometimes consign, always have fun with, so it's a great show.
One of the things that I kind of like about Chasing Cardboard is that it's almost three-dimensional in the fact that you can actually buy some of the cards from the show.
Absolutely.
And to be honest with you, I have no idea where. So where do you sell those cards, Mike?
They're on eBay. If you go to Breaker Culture is the eBay username. That's Ty's long-standing username on eBay. And there's actually, I think you can click on, there's either a link or somehow you can find cards that are on Chasing Cardboard. We're actually launching a website soon, chasingcardboard.tv, that will have merch. And because we've had a ton, believe it or not, which really surprised me, because we're just dudes, right? And where can I get a Chasing Cardboard t-shirt, or I'm like, who do you really want a Chasing Cardboard? I mean, I would wear it obviously, but I'm affiliated with the show. It's weird that fandom because fandom just feels weird in this space, right? It's not the same. If I meet Adrian Beltre, I'm going to be kind of a fanboy, and it's weird to see that happen to you if someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, love
as
your
somebody
stuff."
who has spent a show walking around with you, I will vouch for that.
Well, it's awesome and awkward at the same time, all of the above, and it's humbling. And to think anybody would want to take a selfie with me or talk to me about the content or any of that is great. It's the connection, right? I mean, you and I connecting 7 months ago, not really knowing each other, and now being the friends that we are. For those of you that don't, I mean, Danny and I talk multiple times every week and bounce ideas off of each other and talk cards and all kinds of stuff. And so that's what this hobby does, right? I mean, that's the greatest thing about this hobby. Forget the cards. They're awesome, but it's about the people.
You can't be sappier than me on my own show.
Hey.
This is why I love you. Yes, it's about the people. Mike and I have hung out on the air, off the air. Have we ever told our story that we told yesterday?
I don't think so.
Should we tell? We should tell that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, first of all, to prove that Chasing Cardboard is real, Mike was filming an episode that ultimately, I think, put you in West Virginia. Was that the final destination?
Yep.
And you came in via the Chantilly show while that was happening. So
just happened to work out. Yes.
Right. Total coincidence, just the way it worked out. flew into the airport that was not by the show itself. You flew into the airport that was farther away, Reagan.
Right.
And you crashed with me that night. You didn't have a hotel, no problem. Was glad to have you. I had my son with me, Connor. Love him to death, greatest kid in the world. So is his twin brother and sister. You and I are calling Connor every 20 minutes on the ride, just making sure he's awake. We got the door triple bolted so he's safe, and we're calling him, making sure he's awake. And it was probably 9:30, 10:30.
Yeah, it was getting close to 11 by the time we got there. You called him to try, because you're like, you're going to be a great dad and pick him up some food, right? Some nice little midnight snack, so to speak. But he's not answering. We're like, oh man, this can't be good.
Now I'm feeling like a bad host, so I'm going to let you take over because everything kind of went wonkers at this point.
So we show up at the hotel. We get up to the room thinking, well, he's just, watching Sports Center or whatever he might be doing. Knock on the door, no answer. Bang on the door, no answer. We open it up, and it's got one of those weird, hotel locks that's like this long, slender deadbolt thing, and we can see him laying in the pull-out bed, and we're like, Connor, I mean, we are yelling. I'm surprised everybody else on that floor didn't come out and say, shut the F up, right?
And you've been traveling for how many hours at this point?
All day.
Right.
Or most of the day. I'm tired, right? I'm ready to go to bed. And I don't know Connor at all. And I wanted to wring his neck, quite frankly. I'm like going, dude, wake up. And then 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
We started trying to throw stuff at him.
We did. Through the 4-inch sliver of door.
So you have, to visualize, we were taking turns sitting on the ground in a depression state. And then one of us would get the energy to stand up and yell for a minute or two or throw something at him.
Yeah.
And then we'd go back to sitting and depressed.
The weirdest thing is he's literally not moving. Like, we can see him.
Yeah.
And he is like a statue laying in this bed asleep, facing away from us. So I can't see his face. I'm like, Danny, I think your kid's dead. Like, I really thought he's dead.
By the way, I don't know why that makes me laugh. I feel awful right now.
And of course he wasn't. But the point is, you went down to get some help at the reception
area. I had
area.
to get the hotel manager.
Yeah. And they wouldn't have been able to do anything. The truth is, because
that's what they told me.
We had a key. It wasn't like we couldn't get in the room if it wasn't dead bolted. Well, the manager comes up, he shuts the door, and by some miracle, it allowed for the deadbolt to free itself. And we opened the door immediately. And the manager looks at me like, what are you, some kind of idiot, basically? And I'm like, dude, I swear it was locked. Like,
before we came and got the hotel manager, we gave it a solid 20-minute effort.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're just going, we're sleeping out here in the hall. This is going to suck. But it worked out. Connor's a great young man. I enjoyed being with him. He got to be on that episode. I think he was excited to make the final cut. Yes. And make his Chasing Cardboard debut.
Well, we were glad to have you. It was fun to do a show with you and walk the floor. We got to do that again sometime.
Oh, well, you got to get back to a Dallas show again.
I still haven't made it. I need to. I have no good excuse. So
I'm not going to let you off the hook.
Well, you need to come to Baltimore because I got a standing invitation for the Babe Ruth Museum for you.
Oh,
VIP behind the scenes tour.
Sounds like a home and home. Speaking of invitations, I need to have you on the podcast, on my podcast. I have a good idea for an episode. I'll tell you later. But
well, I will say I'm touched. I have never been on a Moynihan production.
What? Yes, you have. Chasing Cardboard.
Right. Well, that's my son's cameo. You had to put me in there for legal reasons. we all know it was about Connor. Let's be honest. Nobody looked at that and remembered the fat guy in the front seat. Okay, that I was like the Uber driver. It was all about Connor.
Yeah, we're not trafficking children in the show. Here's his father. This is all legit. Yes. No, I'd love to have you on the show. I have an idea of something really cool that we could talk about that would be different. So
I appreciate that. No, thank you for coming on. This is what I want to be doing. This is why we make friends, and this was a very different conversation. So thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yes. All right. Well, I scrapped about half the stuff we were going to talk about, but we hit 45 minutes and nobody's going to listen any longer. So
Okay.
that's my outro. Hang out in the green room. Everybody have a good one. See ya.